The kitten is asleep on the table. Hello. Hello. Am I there? Am I there? Oh, there I am. Hello. Hello. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Oh, I'm so happy to be back with you all. Oh, I'm exhausted. It's a new moon and the energy comes down to the new moon and up to the full moon and I'm just exhausted. I don't know about you all, but oh my goodness. So I was just talking to my son. I have two amazing sons, and my younger one is going to be a sophomore in college, and he's very much anticipating the mail. He's very much an idle hands, does not like idle hands, my younger son. And he's very crafty, like me. He likes to make things and do things and all kinds of things. And through this whole quarantine stuff where he has worked as a valet at the hotels, and that's not really a thing right now here in Central Florida. He has been teaching himself to play guitar. So he was learning on my old guitar, and then he bought himself an electric guitar. And then my husband had this marvelous idea that he could make his own guitar. And so there are these kits that you can buy to build your own guitar. So he's very impatiently waiting for the paint, special paint, purple paint, very chakra, crown chakra, purple paint. But this box has been laying on the dining table, and Susie, my kitten, hi honey, hi Robin, Susie, my kitten, has been gloriously sleeping on top of his $300 box of guitar parts, happy as could be, stretched out in every direction, without a care in the world, this cat. So I just think it's hilarious because I keep thinking, oh, the new moon, and I'm just exhausted, and I look over at her and I'm like, yep, that's just how I feel. I just want to like stretch all out. So hi Therese. So I want to reiterate the message of self-care. And I do want to share a little bit of, so this is the new moon in Cancer that was just last night. And we have also I keep wanting to call it the Nowhere Comet, but it's the Neoware Comet that is visible in North America. And, don't miss your chance to see it because it won't be back for 6,500 years. So we'll miss it. So I just think there's so much interesting stuff that's going on in the universe right now. And we know that Mercury finally went direct. But of course, then Neptune, scooped right in behind it and, took its place. So we still have a whole bunch of planets in retrograde. And so, I have my little cheat sheet here. So still, our retrograde count, I feel like this is our weekly thing, is let's count who's in retrograde. Pluto's still in retrograde, and Pluto really can have a lot with relationships. Saturn's in retrograde, Jupiter's in retrograde, Neptune's in retrograde. So, okay, good news. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 planets that are in retrograde. Woo! So this is exhausting because it's like, I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember, when I was a kid, there was a toy called Stretch Armstrong, and it was this big wrestler guy in like one of those little bikini pants things, and you could just pull him in all directions and he would stretch back. And I feel like that's really what's going on with us right now, is we're just being pulled and molded and turned and twisted to really turn all of us, humanity, society, into something new. 4 planets in retrograde. We've had 5. We're down to 4. It's a huge amount of things shifting. And as we are in the new moon, and so as I said, energy comes down to the new moon and raises back up to the full moon. It comes in that cycle of like parabolas. And so if you're like me, just completely exhausted, and I slept. I went to sleep. I'm kind of nocturnal. I'm not a person that goes to sleep early. So I went to sleep around midnight and slept straight through, 7:30. That should be like a bounty of sleep for me, for my personal, the way I am. And even still, like, I'm exhausted. So I know it's the moon. But I also know, my camera went out, so please comment and make sure if I'm still there. I don't care if I can't see me, but I want to make sure you can see me. So please, someone tell me I'm still there. I'll drink. I'll wait. Okay. So hopefully I'm still there. Hopefully you can still see me. The timer's still going. The camera light's still on. Hopefully you can still see me. So the moon cycle, this moon is the second moon in Cancer. So we've been there before. Oh, thank you, Doris. So we've been through this. We've been, the moon in Cancer. And so now we're still in Cancer. And this is really about ancestral healing. This moon cycle, this time, this is a place where we can really look at our lineage. And, we see, I was listening to, I love podcasts, absolutely love podcasts. And if you are any kind of a podcasty person, I love Alan Alda. Have always loved him. He has a podcast called Clear and Vivid. And I know I'm not current. I'm like behind, but I don't care because if I like your podcast, I'm going to go back to the beginning and listen to like every episode because it's just fascinating to me to see how things develop. And so he had done an interview with Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. And she was talking about, oh goodness, what on earth was I going to say? Oh, she was saying that how the current president says he's a very stable genius, that was actually something that Mussolini would say. And so it's so interesting to, and a little scary, a lot scary, watch how our history is repeating because so many people have said since 2016 there are things that are repeating, the rise of white supremacy, the hate, the division, the racism, the anti-Semitism, the policies that we're seeing being put into place in this country. So many things that are history repeating or kind of. And so what happens is we forget time. We think of time as linear. Okay, as humans we think of time as linear, but in the higher they have no concept of time. There is no today, tomorrow, whatever. It's all in the now. Everything is happening simultaneously. So there is no yesterday, there is no tomorrow. We think of that in that very linear fashion, when the truth is that time is much more like a slinky. I really love that show, The Good Place with Ted Danson. They talk about time winding back on itself, like if you were to write out the name Jeremy Bearimy, that it loops back on. And so that's how they talk about in the afterlife, that they talk about time is how many Jeremy Bearimys it was. And I think that cracks me up. But for me, my understanding of time and what's been shared with me has always been much more like a spiral staircase. Like if you took a slinky and you just let it hang there. So we come back around to the same kinds of things over and over again. We come back around. It's like, I've learned this lesson, or I thought I learned this lesson, or history did this, like we did this before. If you have that sense, not necessarily of deja vu, but of those same experiences. So we're watching, we've watched the stock markets go up and down. We've watched the countries, become to the brink of war and go back. And we've watched the Israel, peace saga go forwards and backwards. And we're watching again as history is attempting to repeat itself, or at least a version of itself, as we're looking at systemic racism and we're looking at this new election cycle, which already feels very old. And we're looking at, somebody like the current president to use quotes of, a past dictator. And that has been pointed out from the very beginning that he seems to be using the playbook of certain dictators. And so, and people say, well, if we don't look at our history, we're doomed to repeat it. It's very true. But it always has that spiral circle quality to it, so that when we get around to that same place, hopefully we have evolved a little bit and we're on the next rung. So it's not a merry-go-round that stays on the same level, right? Like on a child's playground, it's a spiral, so that we are going up a level, hopefully multiple levels, as we are climbing. And so when we come back around, we can see that situation with a different perspective. We can see that situation with fresher eyes, if not fresh eyes, but fresher eyes. And, when we were talking last night in the women's circle that I lead, we were talking all about healing the past lineage. And we talked a lot about healing the female lineage, but it's so important to heal the male lineage. We've been leading this sister circle for years, and for the first time ever, ever, my mom decided to join, and she came in and was part of the circle last night, which was really amazing. And how interesting that she should choose to come and attend the circle now after all of these years. That was the one about healing our family lineage. I just thought it was really interesting. And she was sharing about the importance of the work that she did to heal her relationship with her father. And we both were sharing about the work that we did to heal each other. And I will say that as I did more and more of my own healing and my own work, it became much easier to heal those wounds and those things with my mother, but also understanding the lineage. Because I saw my grandpa as my grandpa. My grandpa was awesome. Pull my finger, sit on my lap. Here's a dollar, schmutchkes, which I think is a word he made up. But I remember seeing them in the Cosby Show as Zerberts, where you put your face up against, you would always get me on the neck and go on somebody, So my grandfather called them schmutchkes. My grandpa was awesome until I got to be a teenager, and then I started to understand the kind of a tyrant he could be. And it wasn't that he was a bad person, but he grew up in a different age, and the way he viewed the world was very different. And he really could be not a very nice person. And when I started to understand what that must have been like for my mother to grow up in that house as the firstborn and a daughter when she had a younger brother, who was, of course, the crown prince, because that was sort of how my grandfather saw things, was that, for the lineage to continue, we need a boy. And even my own husband, who's the fourth, he has, he's a third in his name, like junior, second, third, whatever, he's a third, but he has three older sisters. And his father said to me, now his name is Smith, and my father-in-law said to me when our son was born, he said, well, thank goodness, because then our name will continue. And I know he was kind of kidding because it's Smith, but at the same time, there was always that part of me that was like, huh, because that was my granddad too. So the more we can put ourselves in the position to see things from someone else's perspective, the more we have the ability to heal those wounds in ourselves, and we can heal those wounds in our lineage. And that is one of the things that is really struggling to happen right now in our society, especially in this country, where we're watching that literally play out in front of us with Mary Trump's new book that talks all about the lineage of the Trump family and how all of these things came to pass. And so this is a time, if you feel like you maybe are having extra strife with family members, or things keep coming up like old family arguments, or those same cycles, like it's the same old thing, like if you can imagine Thanksgiving, every year is always the same kind of thing. Take a look, take some time, sit in meditation, and and I feel like this was really key about one of the healing rituals we did last night. Invite your healed ancestors forward. Don't invite the ancestors that are still holding on to all that crap in the afterlife, okay? Because believe me, I get people that come through to me and they're like, oh, I hated that person, I still hate that person, blah, 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 okay? I mean, even though we know that from the afterlife is love, we still have the essence of who we were. That soul that comes forward in mediumship is tied to that human being. And there is a higher aspect to be able to say, yeah, I'm wiser because I can tap into the the intelligence of all there is, but they are still who they are. That aspect of soul is just a piece. The piece of my soul that makes me Shari is one fragment of my soul, because I've had over 70 lifetimes that I have found my own self, and hundreds of lifetimes that I know that I've lived. So the part of my soul that makes me Shari, that would come through in a mediumship, if I were to cross over, that would come through to a medium, would be that part of my soul that is this fragment that makes up me, even though I'm connected to my whole soul. So only invite your healed ancestors to come forward to connect with you and share their wisdom. But taking some time to be able to connect with them And to see our lineage in a different way allows us the opportunity to heal those things in ourselves that have come back around to that place that's a little higher but comes back around, and we can see that differently. Ah, you're so sweet, Elias. I love all your fragments too. Allows us to come back to that same place and look back at our own history and be able to see it from a different perspective. And there is so much healing that can be done from that place if, is always the biggest word, right? If we're willing to do the work. So that is what's been coming for me for this new moon, second Cancer, that this is really the time for us to do that work. Now imagine what would happen to our society if everyone had the ability to stop and say, wait a minute, I've seen this before. Let's learn from this and go forward. Now, there's a lot of people that are living their ego and they don't have the ability to do that. And people who are very self-focused and self-driven for their own personal gain, they really do not have the ability to do that. But if everyone who had the ability to do that could say, what can I learn from my past? I see this pattern repeating. How can I shift it? And so I'll tell you a funny story. So it wasn't funny in the moment, but I learned something. So I work with the manatees. I think a lot of you know that. I volunteer at a state park that's near my home. It's not that near, but I volunteer at a state park to protect the manatees from swimmers. When there's not manatees in the water within our park, I help the rangers. We help the rangers to just keep people from jumping off of stuff and keep the kayaks from going in the wrong places and things like that. And so through this summer already, there has been a group of rambunctious boys who I know ride their bicycles into the park early in the morning and like to cause trouble. So I've seen them several times, and they usually are not too terrible. Yesterday, they were on a holy tear to mess with me. They came in the water, and I saw them, and they're like, we should jump off of that. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't, because I'll kick you out of the park. And so sure enough, because I'm in a kayak, sure enough, they jumped off of whatever it was I told them. And I said, hey, you can't jump off of that. And they jumped out of the water, and they ran away. And it's a whole long kind of a stream of water that's about 3/4 of a mile long. And the swimming area is maybe half a mile. So I'm paddling in my kayak, and they can get out of the water, run around to the other entrance to the water, jump in, run back out before I can even get there. And so they had me going on a merry chase, and I was talking to the rangers on the walkie-talkie, and I'm like, we need to get these kids. And they were like, yep, we got to get the kids. And because it's a real problem, because if they do it, then other people do it. And jumping off of things because there's a big erosion problem at our park can really cause things to collapse into the water, which is actually one of the problems we're dealing with right now because some trees fell in. So I finally, after 2 or 3 times of trying to, now my kayak is bright blue that I use for work, and my paddle is bright green. So I'm very visible in the water, which is important for safety, but they can see me coming a mile away. So they really had the advantage on me. And so finally I said, you know what? I can make myself crazy going around and around and around, or I'm going to see this from a different perspective. Because these kids, I know they're going to leave because that's their pattern. And everyone has heard me yelling at them, so no one else is going to jump off of stuff because everyone's heard me yelling at them. And I know they're going to be back. And so I left it with the rangers who had already identified them. They know because they come in every morning. And I'm just going to let the universe take care of it. And I left that area, and I left because I was getting myself upset. And I said, you know what? I need to look at this from a different way. And I will tell you that 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, when I started this program, started to work with this program because I was so concerned about being a good volunteer, I wouldn't have let it go. I would have been so angry the whole day that I didn't catch those meddling kids, those darn kids. But wisdom time, and it's so fun to work at a state park because at least at the park where I work at, the rangers are like nothing phases them. They're like, yep, we'll deal with it. Okay, whatever. Like they just do not get flustered. I have seen them. They just don't. And I thought, wow, I could learn so much from that. And so I said, you know what? I've done my job. I've given them the information. They know who they're looking for. They know those kids will be back, and somebody else will deal with it. And I'm going to paddle away, and I'm not going to let it ruin my day, because the kids had the upper hand on me. And so there are things we can't change, but we can certainly look from a different perspective. And so I really, as I paddled away, I kind of had this moment of, huh, I wouldn't have had that reaction a year ago, three years ago. The lights in my office are flickering. So clearly that was a good lesson that I learned to my own self. We give ourselves the opportunity to evolve when in the midst of a moment, a moment, that we can take a minute out of the moment and say, what am I doing? How can I better learn from this? How can I better handle this? I could have gone back and forth chasing those kids all day. I never would have caught them because they were much faster than me. What can I learn from this? How can I handle this in a better way? So learning from what's going on around us and learning what has gone on before us. Now, I know that these kids are not rotten kids because I've worked with them. I've seen them. You know, we've had manatees in the water around them. They were just messing with me because they could. They're not rotten kids. And they really weren't jumping off of anything. Like, don't jump off the trees because you literally could pull it down on yourself in the water. And they were jumping off the stairs, which, you know, is just obnoxious, but not dangerous. So in my heart, I know they're not, you know, little devils, but we have to be able to stop ourselves in a moment when we're having that and say, okay, what do I need to learn from this? Where am I, you know, where am I on my cycle, like on the spiral of time? What can I learn from this? Let me stop for a second and take a breath. And so when you find yourself in frustrating moments, because we all have them, and in this time of the new moon, this is the time to really go within and really set the intention of what you want to change about wherever you are in your life, but especially like going forward, going forward while we're looking at where we come from. We really must examine our history, whether it's the history of my relationship with this, you know, rowdy group of boys last week, or the history of our nation over the last 200 years, the history of our ancestors, and really understanding where we came from. I have this picture. I had never seen this before until quite recently. I have this picture. Let's see if I can pull it up on my phone and show it to you. Of course, I can't see the camera, so I'm just going to hope for the best. I got to find it in my phone. La, 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 la. So I have seen this picture very recently of my family, of my great grandparents. It's an amazing picture, which now, of course, I'm not going to be able to find in my phone to show you. Well, anyway, it's a picture of my great-grandparent, it's a picture of my great-grandfather as a child, okay? And it's really an amazing thing to be able to see all of my aunts and my uncles and all of their my great-great-grandparents and the style of dress and what the kids were wearing, and this is my great grandparents, and so my grandparents were children, and to see and to really take a minute and understand like what their life might have been like. My grandfather came to this country in the early 1900s. He was born in Russia in the late 1890s. What was their life like? And I think we don't take so much time to really examine where we come from and how that may have affected who they were and how they raised us and the challenges that they had. And it gave me a lot of comfort to be able to see like where we are in our history. And I know my grandparents are probably rolling over in their graves to see all this stuff repeating itself, but society has not yet learned its lesson. And so I come back to what I said before, which is, and if I can find the picture, because I know I have it in my phone, I will post it so you can see it. But I come back to what I said before, which is imagine what happens if all of us take some time to really think about where we came from and how to look at things a little bit differently. And if we can create the habit of when we're in a moment that we can take a minute and say, okay, where am I? Why is this happening for me? What do I need to learn from this? And how can I look at this differently in order to go forward in a better way? So that's what I am called to share with you today. Was very clearly illustrated for me in my personal life over the last 24 hours. How can we take that time in a moment of frustration, a moment of aggravation, a moment of something that is happening for us that may not be fun, and take a minute out of that to take a breath. Say, what do I need to learn from this? How can I see this in a different way? And to be able to go forward. And I'll share one more thing. Last night, my husband and I, and I love my husband. He's really an amazing, amazing human. And he always is trying to do things to make things better for me, and which is awesome. But sometimes he will do things for me instead of asking if I need help. And so it causes some frustration for me. And so the other day I was able to say, yesterday even, and I was able to say, hey, can you see this from my perspective? Rather than what would have previously been an argument, to be able to say, can you see this? Can I share this with you? Can you see where I'm feeling? And he said, yeah, actually, you know what? I never noticed that before, but yeah, I do. I see what you're saying. But if I'd have come to him and say, burr, 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 it would have had a very different outcome. And so again, I know I kind of am going around in my own little circle about this. When we're having that moment of frustration, and I think the reason that they're giving me this so strongly today is because we're going to have moments of frustration. Okay, with 4 planets in retrograde and an election coming in this country and a huge global shift in what's going to happen from that election. Yeah, it's really amazing. It was, I didn't even know the picture existed until I was in Colorado in January for my cousin's daughter's bat mitzvah. It was really an amazing thing to be able to see this picture and be able to identify all the people. So I have it written like on the back who's who, so we don't forget. But so we have an election coming in this country in November. It cannot get here soon enough, but that's going to have global ramifications. And at the same time, we have 4 planets in retrograde that are going to last right up to it. And there is a lot of things that are going to shift in this country, whoever wins this election. And there's so much that's shifting, and we will be better prepared for it when we can do our own work now. Because I remember in the 2016 election, there were people that were elated and there were people that were crying. We need to do our own work. It's a really good idea for us to do our own healing, our past work, to be able to move forward in a better way so that we are clear and strengthened and ready for whatever is coming. This is important for society. We have talked about we being the light bringers, that if you are here and you follow me and you watch these videos and you show up each week, you are a light bringer. You are a person who understands the importance of the work that we do. Whether you're a psychic or medium or teacher or healer or whatever, you are tapped into the light. And we've talked so many times about the ripples in the water, right? So when you are healing your own self and you bump up against someone who's not healing and doing that work, you can help them, you can love on them, you can treat them with compassion and guidance, and that your ripples that you send out from the work that you have done will cavitate off of that person and shift how their ripples go out. We really do spread the light like lighting one candle from the next. So it becomes so important for us to be able to tune in to what's going on in the universe and what's going on for ourselves, so we can do our own healing work, so that we can cavitate that out to so many other people who need that before this election. So I really think that that's so much of why I really think that that is so much of why the healing your ancestral lineage theme is so present in this particular time period of the second new moon in Cancer. So all right, enough of that. Let's see which goddess is with us today. I'm always curious, but you know I like to do the talking before the cards, because the cards are so amazing to reveal to us the confirmation of what we've been talking about. So let's do that. Slippery cards today. And we'll have to remember to ask Elias what's our theme for the week on Psychic Medium Square so we can go over there and talk about that. So, goddess for today, Nike. Ah, well, we've met Nike before. Where's my book? Here's my book. Nike, she's the goddess of just do it, right? But it is, that's an oversimplification, but she is really the goddess of taking action steps. Let's see. Nike, the goddess of ambition. So she talks about putting your glasses on. She asks you to be present to the beauty and the richness discovered in your life so far. So when I say so far, remember we're coming from back there to here is so far. Celebrating them is key to enabling you to co-create even more. You live in a world where you may have felt that you were not allowed to celebrate your victories, lest you be cut down for being self-centered. Perhaps you were raised in a family history that discouraged you from shining in an authentic way. Being successful at the game of life requires you to refuse that message that you are too much or not enough. Your biggest win is to be yourself, accepting yourself exactly who you are and how you are, releasing the idea that you're flawed in any way, and expressing yourself with authenticity. Just so awesome, because this gives us the opportunity to really, as I said, tap into our healed ancestors. Don't tap into the non-healed ones. And really, as you sit in a quiet meditation moment, really allow yourself to tap into your healed ancestors. Invite them to come forward. Invite them to share with you what they have, what wisdom and guidance they have to teach you. That is so important. And we may make that our theme for Wednesday for our Wednesday night meditation. So if you haven't been joining me on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern right here, we've been doing Wednesday night meditation for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, and we do some discussion about meditation techniques and tips and different themes. So we've done manifestation and affirmation, we've done grounding and clearing, and some healing meditations. We've done that as well. So lots of really amazing opportunities to learn to meditate on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And if you are, because several of you have asked about the webinar, so the live webinar is ready. It's going to be July 30th. It is a Zoom link, and the flyer is posted and pinned on this page. So please don't hesitate to register. Just if you have questions, let me know. I'm so excited for this because this is going to be the precursor to our online series of classes that we've been working on as well. And so many people have been asking about that. So I'm just really excited. I know many of you have been asking, when is your webinar coming? And the answer is July 31st. All right. So, and it is a very reasonable $15 for the webinar, and how you can pay for that and get registered is on the flyer, so you have all the information there. Also, one more thing I'm super excited about is, I was just going to say, one more thing I'm super excited about is that our family, our community of light, is at 675. We're 25 people away from hitting 700, which just blows my mind. I'm so excited for that. But so of course the first card pulls up is soul family, and so this ties into everything that I was literally about to say, but also everything we've been talking about, because your healed ancestors are your soul family. This is where you come from. We incarnate with the same people over and over again, that we incarnate with the same souls over and over again. So the person who was your mother in this life might have been your spouse in another life. You may have been the male, the female, you may have been the child, the sibling. We incarnate with people over and over again. I have found my sons, both of them. I've found my parents. I have found my husband multiple times. I have found other people of significance in my life, girlfriends and male friends, that have incarnated with me over and over again. It is absolutely fascinating. So our soul family has so much influence over us, not just here, but over lifetimes. But that also is parts to our soul family, because to our ancestral lineage, because my grandmother has been there. Both of my grandmothers have been there. My uncles. So we see our family, the people we recognize as family in this life, we see those in other lifetimes as well. So in this picture of my great grandparents and all of my grandfather's and my grandmother's history, to look at the picture, I can realize that I'm not a thought in anybody's eye because my grandmother's in that picture and she's like 6 or 7. But in the time that that picture was taken, I could have been walking on the earth plane as a person in their lives. Like I may have been a friend of my great grandfather's in another life. I never I had looked for it, but to have those connections is so important that it's not just our ancestral lineage of the humans that we know, but understanding that there is that soul connection that we incarnate with those people over and over again. So um, Starseed, what lifts you up? Starseed, I want to read from the book from this one because Starseed is such an important, I got to find it. Starseed is such an important identification of the souls that are incarnating to help to heal the planet. So this is really, really important. So I love this Work Your Light Oracle from Rebecca Campbell. I absolutely, this is my most favorite deck I've ever worked with. So I want to grab her. They're not in order. They're not alphabetical. They're not anything. 50. Okay. But I want to grab her verbiage for this because I think she's just, it's an amazing, the whole idea of the different kinds of souls that we have, the crystal children, the star seeds, the rainbow child. My older son is an indigo. He is so an indigo. So I want to share what Rebecca has to say really about this. Starseeds are souls with a double mission to raise their own consciousness and the consciousness of the planet. They are old souls who have incarnated elsewhere beyond this planet. Many starseeds arrive with a feeling that time is running out and there is something that they came here to do or create or contribute. If you pulled this card, it is to confirm that you are a starseed and you are being encouraged to answer the call and to follow what lights you up. So you may be a starseed. I feel like I have always been, for me. You may be one too. But what's so important about this card is awakening the call to follow your path of doing what lights you up. I talk to my kids a lot about not building their lives because one graduated college and the other one's just got a few years left. As they build their lives, to not ever be trapped by a mortgage or a job they hate. They can always change. You can always make a change, and never to build their life where they've bought a house that was too much money or that they're stuck in a place that they're miserable. There's so much more to life, and that if they just do what they enjoy and follow their passions, everything else will work out. The way that we find our passion and we can really get clear and discover what we're supposed to be doing here is by healing all that stuff that we've been talking about. So the star seed is really important, not just for whether or not you are one, but for the greater message of do what lights you up and follow your passion, what you came here to do, because that is what the world needs so much more of right now. We need so much more of people who are doing what they love to do and doing what their heart is calling them for. And I think that is going to be one of the greatest blessings to come out of this whole quarantine pandemic, because people have been removed from jobs, laid off from jobs, furloughed from jobs. Companies are hiring people back. They don't want to hire the same people. People don't want to go back to jobs they hate. They're looking to reinvent themselves. They're looking at what else they can do. And honestly, I think 10 years from now, that is going to be the biggest blessing of this time in our history, because this is going to give people, it's giving people already the opportunity to, some to be closer to family, some not so much. But it's giving people the opportunity to reinvent themselves. And so what did you come here to do? Even if that means reinventing yourself, what did you come here to do? This is a time to connect in with that. And you know how you do that? You do that by connecting in with all of your healed ancestors, and come to find out that there were people in my lineage who had these, the same kind of psychic and metaphysical abilities that I have. But it was very, very hush. We don't talk about it. So really interesting. And so, of course, our last card would be Dance with Life. Dance with life. Do something to change your energy. Do something to change your energy as you're thinking about this, your lineage, as we are crossing as we're spiraling around, and we're looking at those situations again and again, and we're looking at those things from new perspectives. How do you change the energy around the situation? How do you change the energy? So I changed the energy with my husband for coming to him from a place of, hey, can I talk to you about this, rather than a place of, you suck, because he does not. He is awesome. I changed the energy around the rotten teenage boys by remembering I've raised two of them, and that they're not rotten kids. They were just, being a little rambunctious, and they knew they had me beat. So there was nothing for me to do about it. So I changed the energy about it, rather than just staying mad because I got bested by some 14-year-olds. But when your ego's not attached to it, you can laugh. And we changed the energy around our ancestral healing. So I changed the energy around my mother, so much so that she felt safe to come to a sister circle after all these years. And, I want to say ironically, except I know there's no coincidences, on the night that we were going to talk about ancestral healing. So everything fits together. The cogs and the wheels, everything fits together if we're willing to look at it from a different perspective, all of it. And so Nike asks us to go for it, right? Nike says, just do it, right? This is where that came from. She is the goddess of ambition. Go forward. What would you do if you knew you could not fail, or you would not fail? Follow your starseed, your inner starseed, whether you are one or you aren't. Follow your inner starseed and do what you came here to do. Take a breath, take a leap. What did you come here to do? Because you will be supported by your soul family. I guarantee you, you will be supported by your soul family. And it's up to us. If we want to change the energy of the planet, if we want to change the energy of the political climate in this country and the planet, because if you look around, we're not the only quasi-dictator that has come to power. It's happening all over. And so if we want to change the energy of the planet, then we have to be changing the energy of ourselves. We change the energy of ourselves. It's like putting food coloring into water, if you've ever had, or batter, and you drop in some food coloring and it just kind of spreads. And then you give it a stir and it gets all over, right? So we have to be the first drop of the food coloring. We get to be the people that say, I'm healing myself, I'm shifting myself, and I'm going to allow those ripples to go out and cavitate to everybody else so that they can too. So that whatever is developing for our humanity, because this is so much the time of humanity healing and reinventing itself as we're being pulled and molded and pushed like the Stretch Armstrong guy, as we are being pulled and molded into new directions, a new way of seeing ourselves and a new way of seeing each other and a new way of relating and communicating with each other. We'll only come to that point when we heal ourselves and we're not coming from a place of ego, me, 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 me. And when we can heal ourselves and heal our past and release the need to be right, we can create a totally different energy vibration that allows us to dance with life. Such an amazing, amazing, amazing feeling. When you allow yourself to stay connected to the universe, we allow the universe to guide us, we trust the universe, we truly can change our energy and dance with life. So, I know I was a little rambly today. Apologize for that. But I am so thrilled and delighted. The only bummer about my camera not showing on my screen is I can't see how many of you are here, but I love you all so much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to stick around for a couple more minutes if there's any questions. I am so delighted and honored every single week that you will come and spend some time with me. Come on Wednesday evening and meditate with me. It's awesome because we do meditation on Wednesdays, and then right after that, Elias goes live on his on the Psychic Squares page and talks to some amazing people, and you'll be all like blissed out to learn all the stuff from them. So I definitely encourage you to stop by here on Wednesday for some meditation lessons, learn. And it's not like sit in a classroom and count to 3. We do a lot of discussion about meditation techniques and what, guided meditation, and then you have some time in quiet for yourself to really get connected with what's going on with you. And I will tell you, meditation is an amazing thing to shift where we are in our lives and shift our energy. So I highly recommend it. And then, of course, the webinar on the 31st. Get registered for the webinar. I can't wait to have you all join us. It's going to be an amazing, amazing thing. I think Robin is all registered as well. Thanks, Doris. I look forward to seeing you as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing some time. Share with your friends. We're at 675. I can't even stand it. I'm so excited. We'll give away another 30-minute reading once we hit 700. So yes, Wednesday night. Yes, Wednesday night. Yeah, I questioned that for a second. Wednesday. We'll see you on Wednesday, Doris. We'll see you on Wednesday, Robin. I love you all. Thank you for spending some time. It means the world to me to get to be to share with you, and that you find the value in this for you. Feel free to share the video. Let's get some more people as part of our community of light. Have a great rest of your day. Mwah.